If you look at the coronation footage, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes.
If you look at the coronation footage, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, music, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes. So, what if the biggest royal power shift never happened during a coronation, but behind palace doors? Reports now suggest King Charles quietly stripped Queen Camilla of her most important influence, music, while placing Catherine, Princess of Wales, at the heart of the monarchy's future. Some believe it was a necessary decision to protect the crown, while others see it as a stunning betrayal of the woman who stood beside him for decades. Did Camilla's reported final plea truly fall on deaf ears? Or is there far more to this story than anyone realizes? But what do you think? Did King Charles make the right decision by placing Catherine's future role above Camilla's influence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Music, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating royal stories. The crown changes hands. All right. When headlines began claiming that King Charles had taken Camilla's crown and handed it to Catherine, many people imagined a dramatic royal confrontation behind closed doors. But that isn't how the British monarchy works. No one can simply remove a queen consort ceremonial crown and place it on the Princess of Wales. Those crowns are reserved for specific occasions and carry centuries of tradition. Yet, despite that reality, the phrase refuses to disappear. That's because many royal observers believe the story was never about jewels. It was always about something far more valuable: power, influence, music, and who truly represents the future of the crown. Inside the monarchy, titles tell only part of the story. Real influence is often measured by who receives the most important responsibilities, who stands closest to the music monarch during major moments, and whose voice carries the greatest weight when difficult decisions are made. Those changes rarely arrive with official announcements. Instead, they unfold quietly through subtle shifts that palace watchers have learned to recognize over time. Over the past few years, many have noticed those subtle changes becoming harder to ignore. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has increasingly taken center, music, stage during major royal events. Whether attending state occasions, leading significant engagements, or representing the monarchy at home and abroad, her presence has become more prominent than ever. At the same time, King Charles has repeatedly emphasized the importance of preparing the next generation, placing growing confidence, music, in both Prince William and Catherine as the faces of the monarchy's future. That shift has naturally fueled speculation. Was the king simply giving his heir and future queen greater visibility? Or was something more significant happening behind palace walls? Royal commentators have pointed out that institutions often communicate through actions, music, rather than words. Instead of announcing a change in direction, they allow the public to notice patterns over time. One appearance becomes another. One responsibility quietly expands into several more. Eventually, those individual moments begin to tell a much larger story. Recent royal appearances have only intensified that discussion. As Catherine gradually resumed public duties following her cancer treatment, the attention surrounding her return was remarkable. Crowds gathered, headlines, music focused on her every appearance, and public interest seemed to reinforce what opinion polls had suggested for years, that she remains one of the monarchy's most trusted and admired figures. For a king facing his own health challenges, such public confidence is difficult to overlook. None of this proves that Camilla has been stripped of authority or deliberately pushed aside. Officially, Queen Camilla continues to perform her constitutional and ceremonial duties alongside King Charles. However, music critics and supporters alike have questioned whether influence inside the palace is beginning to flow in a different direction. If the monarchy is preparing for the decades ahead, many believe it makes strategic sense to invest increasingly in William and Catherine, whose reign will eventually define the institution's future. And that is where the real mystery begins. If the crown's most valuable asset is public trust rather than precious jewels, then perhaps the greatest transfer taking place isn't one of titles at all. Perhaps it is the quiet movement of confidence, responsibility, and institutional backing from one generation to the next. A shift that raises an even bigger question about what happened when Camilla reportedly tried to secure her place before that transition became impossible to stop. And that raises an even more unsettling possibility. Was Charles quietly reshaping the monarchy around Catherine while Camilla's position remained untouched on paper? Who was gaining influence behind the palace walls, and what crucial moment would reveal the transfer was already underway? Music, stay with us. Charles makes his choice. If this truly is a quiet transfer of influence, then the obvious question becomes why? Why would King Charles, after spending decades fighting for Camilla's acceptance, seemingly begin placing so much trust in Catherine instead? The answer may have less to do with personal feelings and far more to do with one responsibility every monarch eventually faces: protecting the future of the institution long after they are gone. For any king, succession planning never really ends. Every decision is measured not only by today's headlines, but by whether the monarchy will remain stable years from now. Since ascending the throne in 2022, Charles has repeatedly spoken about a slimmer, more focused monarchy, one built around a smaller group of senior working royals. That vision naturally places Prince William and Catherine at the center, not because they are replacing anyone today, but because they will one day inherit the greatest responsibilities. When she eventually began returning to royal duties, the public reaction was overwhelming. Crowds' snorts gathered wherever she appeared, and media attention reflected a renewed appreciation for her calm, measured approach during music, an intensely difficult period. For many observers, that response demonstrated music, something the palace could not manufacture through speeches or public relations. It revealed trust. Trust has always been one of the monarchy's most valuable assets. A crown may symbolize authority, but public confidence gives that authority meaning. Throughout modern royal history, the institution has survived periods of controversy largely because certain individuals were able to maintain that connection with the public. Increasingly, Catherine appears to be one of those figures. At the same time, Prince William, music, has continued taking on larger responsibilities as heir to the throne. Together, William and Catherine present an image of continuity that many believe aligns with Charles's long-term vision. They represent the next generation, the future king and queen, and the family expected to guide the monarchy through the decades ahead. From a strategic perspective, investing in them now could simply be prudent planning rather than a dramatic redistribution of power. That distinction matters. There is little evidence that Charles is motivated by personal resentment toward Camilla. After all, he spent years defending their relationship and ultimately ensured she was crowned queen consort. But being devoted to one's wife and preparing the institution for the future are not necessarily the same responsibility. A monarch is expected to think beyond personal loyalties and consider what best protects the crown itself. If that is indeed the calculation Charles has been making, then For King Juan Charles, legacy is about more than his own reign. Monarchs are often remembered not only for what they accomplished, but for the condition in which they leave the crown to the next generation. For Charles, that means ensuring the monarchy remains stable, relevant, and respected long after his reign ends. That responsibility naturally places Prince William and Catherine at the center of the conversation. As the future king and queen, they are expected to guide the institution through challenges Charles may never face. Public expectations are changing. Media scrutiny is intensifying, and support for the monarchy can no longer be taken for granted. Preparing William and Catherine for that reality may music be essential to the institution's long-term survival. Seen from that perspective, many developments discussed throughout this story begin to fit together. Catherine's expanding responsibilities, William's growing leadership, and Charles's reported vision of a streamlined monarchy all point toward one objective: preparing the next generation before transition becomes unavoidable. Whether intentional or not, those choices have fueled the perception that the palace is gradually shifting its center of gravity toward the future. That brings the conversation back to Queen Camilla. Whatever opinions surround her past, her place in royal history is secure. She stood beside Charles through some of the most controversial decades in modern royal history and eventually became queen consort despite years of public opposition. Her resilience, persistence, music, and commitment to public duty have become part of her legacy. Yet, institutions constantly evolve. The monarchy has survived for centuries, not because it remained unchanged, but because it adapted whenever circumstances demanded it. Today's adjustments may therefore represent not a rejection of the past, but an investment in the future. Ultimately, the monarchy depends on something more fragile than ancient traditions or priceless regalia: public trust. Every appearance, responsibility, and transition shapes how the public will view the crown for years to come. Perhaps the real story was never about one crown being taken from Camilla and handed to Catherine. Perhaps it has always been about something less visible, but more significant. While the ceremonial crown remains where protocol says it belongs, the monarchy may already be investing in the generation destined to music lead next. History may ultimately conclude that the true transfer of power, music, happened long before another coronation ever took place. So, what do you think? Did King Charles choose the monarchy over Camilla, or was Catherine's rise inevitable? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another fascinating royal story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.